Hey, ladies and gentlemen, it's the weekend. Saturday and Sunday, as you know, we're here on Facebook Live, quarantine series, The Victor Brooks Show. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Wendy. I want to give a special shout out to my co-producers of the quarantine series shows. My brother, Christopher Brooks, my sister, Julie McKnight, and our niece and lovable baby girl, Wendy Vaughn, who's a professional in her own right. Thank you for all of your hard work and the education that you're giving to us old heads, Chris and Julie, about this whole media game and how to make the cameras work and all of that, you know. But thank you so much. And you know, at the beginning of every show, y'all, especially around this time, I love giving my shout outs and shows of respect during this coronavirus experience that the world is going through right now. I love to give it up to my emergency medical response teams, my service workers, my essential workers, my doctors, our nurses, our fire department, our custodial crews around, our postal crews, our grocery workers, our funeral directors, unfortunately, our bus drivers, our truck drivers, our trash collectors, sanitation workers, our street cleaners, our DWP workers, gas station attendants, mechanics, airline personnel now, human resource people, mental health professionals and personnel, our farmers. You know, I just want to thank everybody. And, you know, my list is going to grow because Victor Brooks was raised to give respect where respect is due. And, you know, I must give it up to those who are trying so hard through their profession and their expertise to give us a sense of normalcy during this time. Thank you so much and much respect, y'all. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out here. Mama, I know you're watching. I know you're watching today because I have one of your favorite people on as a guest today as well. My sister Julie, thank you so much. My wife Cheryl, thank you so much. The mothers here, the mothers who are watching right now and the mothers who dedicated their lives to try and do their best because no child is born with a handbook of motherhood and fatherhood. You dig? But I just want to thank you so much for your due diligence as our mothers. Today, you all, you know what? I know she's not on camera as of yet, but I just want to tell y'all how special today is for me. Because as you know, I always like to bring conversations that have a string of positivity because we're about the positivity posse on the Victor Brooks Show. And the history that has been delivered to us through all of the people we've brought to you over the course of these weekends, it's been incredible. I'm still getting emails from our first quarantine series of Sister Wanda Vaughn of the Emotions. Much love and happy Mother's Day to you too, sis. How you all are still watching. You all are still feeling that positivity that we're trying to bring. And that it looks as though we are bringing it. And I just want to thank y'all for your positivity you throwing back to the Victor Brooks Show. We surely appreciate it. And today we're going to educate. I'm going to be educated today. And I'm pretty sure that so many of others of you are going to be educated today. And it's a very, very special time because I'm honored to bring who I consider my family, my sister of 30 plus years, Miss Bonita Bo Money. Miss Bo, Sister Bo,
hi.
Thank you for joining us today.
Hi. I'm so excited.
Well, we are too, sis. We are too. And I know everybody, like I said, is watching. Mom, Dad, Chris, Julie, everybody, you know, even your nephew.
Hi, fam. How are you guys? Is everybody in North Carolina?
You know what? Mom, Dad, Chris, Julie, yes, North Carolina.
So they are, okay.
But yeah, and they're all plugged in and watching.
Nice.
My mind's going back, Bo, to Chatsworth 30 some years ago, where we were neighbors, you know?
We lived right across the street, yeah.
Right across the street. And you remember when Julie's BJ and my Vic Jr. were like this, you know?
Yeah, and Nico. Nico and my two boys, Milan and William, were the exact same age as BJ and Nico. So, and they were like, I think 3 and 1.
There you go. That's right. Because that's right. Because our son, youngest Benjamin, Cheryl was carrying him.
Right.
That's right. There you go. There you go. Well, Bo, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. I couldn't help it. I had a family thing hit me real quick because this Bo was on here, but I just want to give you an insight here. Mm-hmm. Today, we're talking to Bo Money, 30 plus years in the entertainment industry collectively. Primarily a trendsetter in her own right in a lot of those ways, in a lot of those years. Trendsetter by meaning producer, director, female mover and shaker in this industry of entertainment. Casting agency, casting director. We're going to go all the way back to her involvement with Dr. Dre and coincide of how this is making a connection even now, presently in modern times. How we know that what she was moving and shaking and what her and Dr. Dre over, oh my God, the Let Me Ride video, which she was one of the producers and developers of that video, that whole concept of the Chronic album was monument at that time for the education of what was in store now. It takes time, but Sister Bo was one of the forerunners of that whole conceptual idea. We want to talk about the last 5 years of her being a mover and shaker within the cannabis industry. Some people call her, or I should say millions call her, Queen Cannabis. Much respect on that. And today, we want, Bo, you to take us to school, sis, on the whole industry in itself. We're going to start from scratch. Because in my heart, I believe that especially in the United States of America, there needs to be an education to assist in the respect of the cannabis industry as well as the plant itself, the medicinal purposes that are just endless. Also, through your efforts and much respect to what you've been doing, the education on the business side, the generational wealth that a lot of us are missing out on. And I just have to put this in that a lot of my viewers, I want you to know as well, that my family, we grew up with the respect of the cannabis. And I'm going to tell you this, our father, back in the 70s, outside of Philadelphia, my father was on the council, the city council, and one of my father's main directives and campaigns at that time was the decriminalization of the use of cannabis. Also, my father was like, you know what, let's get some of these people out of prison who you just put in prison because you found some weed in the house, or you put in prison because this is what you have decided is a negative effect on our society. So I couldn't think of anyone better that I respect and have always respected for 30 plus years. But Bo Money, take us to school, sister.
Thank you, Vic. Well, yeah, I've been in the industry now for about 5 years. It was very new, like a lot of folks now, didn't know where to start. But what I did, what I would say what really affected me at that point was that there were not a lot of folks that looked like me in the industry, which was very concerning because here we are legalizing and going recreational in a lot of states, and there were no Black and brown folks, which is a huge problem because, again, like you said earlier, you know, Black and brown folks were the ones that were targeted during the war on drugs. So they were disproportionately put in prison and jail for this plant that now folks are making billions of dollars on. So again, we can't allow that in the sense that we cannot not let our folks be involved. We have to give them the opportunity, and that comes through education, absolutely. So this is where the social equity part comes in, because it's real important that we take down the barriers that have been created for folks to enter into the industry. Right. So that's something that I've been working on for the last like 3 or 4 years in different cities and different states.
Can you educate us on that phrase, social equity, for those of us who are either just being introduced to that term or those of us who may not even know that term as it relates to this industry?
Absolutely. And social justice, I mean, social equity can go across the board in any industry, but we really, really need social equity in the cannabis industry just because, again, folks are being shut out. You know, Black and brown folks are being shut out of the industry, and they're going to miss out on the generational wealth. So what happened over the last 3 years is different cities have implemented social equity plans And so they're basically programs that are social equity programs. Using the pot here. So anyway, so what it is, it basically allows folks that have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs.
Okay.
So it would be folks from communities, which are generally Black and brown communities, and marginalized communities. So what the program has done is, if you have been in prison for cannabis, if you come from one of these zip codes that were impacted by the war on drugs, and you're low income, that would give you priority to apply for a cannabis license. And that could be in retail, cultivation, manufacturing, and distribution. So what it's done is it's given priority processing to folks that normally would not get an opportunity to be in the industry.
Okay. So therefore, that's why I guess, or now have been educated, that the education of social equity is a must for especially our community, Black and brown community, to understand. Now, let me ask you, in your opinion, the reason why the education has been so difficult, where does that difficulty come from? Is it the government? Is it our own selves? Why is it not something that a lot of us in the community, I'm going to include myself, have not really looked at and say, you know what, let's look at this social equity thing when it comes to this industry?
Well, I think, first of all, most folks don't even know that there's a social equity program that exists.
Okay.
And then when they do hear about it, they don't really know what that means.
Okay.
And they don't even know if this is something they're going to qualify for, or they don't believe it. Because again, you know, and I did my first social equity event January 2018. And I did it at the Watts train station because I wanted to bring out folks that were truly from the communities that truly would qualify. So, and I know that they were the least educated on what was going on in our industry as well. Even after like a 4-hour event, these folks still didn't believe that this opportunity existed because they either think it's a trap, and I get that, because again, when you look at government, when do they ever give Black and brown folks anything, especially a huge opportunity like that? So if I told you, okay, Vic, look, if you have a cannabis conviction, you're low income, and you come from the hood, you would get priority for a cannabis license. You probably would say, oh, really? Okay, what's the catch? Right. You know, and that's pretty much the response that we do get from, you know, folks, because again, they don't trust the system because the system has put them in prison for this plan.
Thank you. Which brings us to the point of the injustices of even the whole, I mean, when we did, and I'm already getting lineups, sis, you'll see after this, people are like, wow. I'm getting adjectives like wow and deep and that. I mean, because this is why it's so special to me to have you here today, is because I'm all about the positivity, you know, but to me, the positiveness in this is to have your education to myself and to others that, hey, it's not a negative. It's only negative if we don't educate ourselves, if we don't understand what it is that we have an opportunity for, not just for ourselves, but for our generation. So I'm looking at the holistic positivity of this. And I have to, because a lot of us my age, and I'm going to, you know, talk about my arena older, we remember the war on drugs, the just say no era, you know? And so in other words, are you saying that was such an impact on our society and thinking that even our children and grandchildren in this age, how is that affecting that mentality right now?
Well, you know,
generation.
And that's a very important point because again, you know, that DARE generation, you had kids that were snitching on their parents for smoking a joint because the stigma was very real. And so the government they were brainwashing folks into believing that cannabis was a hardcore drug and you know, anybody that's utilizing it should go to jail. And that's a huge problem. And that stigma was started in 1937. Before that, cannabis was a cure-all for everything. So, you know, again, it was in the benefit of the government to demonize this plant. And this way, you can put Black and brown folks in jail legally, because again, we're going back to, I would say, legal slavery, you know what I mean? So it's modern day slavery with this, because again, you can start putting folks in jail for a plant that now people are making billions of dollars off of, and they're going to become very wealthy and create generational wealth for their families. But now you have basically polarized communities because of the war on drugs. And so now you got these Black and brown communities that are afraid to even get near the plant, because so many of our folks went to prison. Millions of people went to prison over cannabis. So now you have a generation, you have our baby boomers that are afraid to enter into the industry because they were part of the war on drugs. Their communities were affected. Their brothers, their fathers, their sons went to prison over cannabis. So now they're like, why would we want to even touch this plant that tore down our families? So this is what we have to educate folks on, is that this is a legal industry.
Come on.
And it's just like getting a liquor license. And if you can obtain that liquor license or that cannabis license, you are about to set yourself up and your family for generational wealth. And there's no reason we shouldn't take part of it, because if we paid the price for this plant, we should be definitely participating in the generational wealth and the economics of this. So, this is what I want to explain also, is that
please,
you do not have to get a retail or a cultivation or manufacturing license to be in the industry. There's so many ancillary parts to this industry. For instance, say you come from marketing. Well, open up a marketing company around cannabis. Production, that's a big part, because media companies are big in cannabis, because we can't advertise the way normal mainstream companies can. So this is a great opportunity to be really creative, with a marketing company and shooting that great creative media. If you come from the security world, security is a big part of cannabis. Every cannabis company has to have a security component.
Gotcha.
Same thing with HR, same thing with PR. All that stuff now is needed. So people need to just start shifting their skill sets into cannabis.
And you know what, Bo? Oh man, this is fantastic, because the point you just brought out now, sis, it seems as though, a lot of people, and we're still dealing with that generational stigma that was set over the years by the powers that be, whoever that specifically was, government, religious, or whatever it was. That stigma hit so strong at a period. But what you're saying right now is, you don't even have to be a partaker of the cannabis, of the plant itself, of the medicinal whatever. You're missing out, but you don't have to be to also be able to include your professional avenue. That's what you're saying, right? There's other avenues. There's other areas.
The ancillary part of cannabis is huge.
Yes.
I would say one of the biggest sectors of the cannabis industry right now is the tech. So all these tech companies are highly valuated. So, those kind of companies, So, again, people are coming from the tech world transitioning into cannabis. So it's wide open. So again, you do not have to touch the plant in order to be in the industry, is what I'm saying.
Gotcha. Right on. And that's what I was getting loud and clear, that it's in the education even I'm getting right now, and more once you see that this list is showing, that the education is that it's so much, the positivity of it all is so much more than what our stigma has been implanted into us over generations, if we look at, let's say, now one thing that I know that I need to be educated on as well, we look at like Colorado, California, those that have given their endorsement or have legalized their...
Right, so they're recreational now, versus medicinal.
Thank you. Educate us, please. I'll start there. Give me that one before, because you may even answer the question before I even answer.
Well, California was one of the first states to go medicinal. So we've been medicinal over 26 years. Unfortunately, we didn't go recreational first. Colorado went recreational first. And so again, Washington, Oregon, California, those were all states that went recreational. It was first Colorado, Washington, and Oregon first.
Okay.
But again, now we are recreational. And we have so many other states as well, like Illinois, you've got Michigan. These are all states that are now recreational, which means you don't have to get a medical card. You can go in with just your ID and buy like you would buy alcohol, same type of protocol. So again, you see how large this industry is. This is $1 billion industry. And again, whether it's you use cannabis for medicinal purposes, and for me, I don't think there's a difference between medicinal and recreational. I think it all serves its purpose. I think it is a medicinal plant, and how you choose to medicate is how you choose to medicate. But what I don't want people to do is not take the opportunity to be involved in the industry, because
there you go,
the stigma around it, you know, because again, when people think cannabis or they say weed, they think that, okay, it's about getting high, and it's not about getting high. Because again, we are now getting data from the research that's being done, you know, for the medicinal components of cannabis, which is great, because before we couldn't really do that research because we weren't recreational legal, and we're not federally legal still. So even though we're not federally legal, you know, but we still are advancing in a huge way, because just being recreational opens it up to where now you have folks that are 70, 80 years old, and they are treating their ailments with cannabis, which is great, because they're getting off the pharma, you know, the big pharma drugs,
there you go,
you know, that are killing them.
You mean the other drug dealing market?
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Right. The drug dealing market that really kills you.
Get you. Gotcha.
You know, so no, absolutely. So I just think that for most folks, they have to understand that depending on the state that you're in, you know, you need to find out if you do have a social equity program. If you do, then, you know, try to get involved. Find out, you know, what the actual requirements are for your city and your state. And then definitely reach out to organizations like mine that can actually help you navigate through the process.
Please tell us about your organization. I know you started your two primary of your organizations. Indica is one, right? But you had one before. What was that? Did it deal? Tell us the details of your first and also now your personal journey.
So Women Above Ground was my first organization, and above is spelled ABUV. And I started that organization. It was a networking organization for women of color that were trying to transition to the cannabis industry, because I had a lot of like corporate professional women that wanted to go into cannabis but didn't understand, you know, how to transition, how the optics would be, because everybody's concerned, especially if you come from the corporate world. Transitioning into cannabis is not always so favorable, you know, to family, colleagues, all that, because again, that stigma's there. So I just wanted to give opportunity to women of color that wanted to get in the industry. And then I broadened, I would say, the membership scope when I started Indica, which is a National Diversity and Inclusion Cannabis Alliance, because I wanted to just assist all people in being able to get into the industry. So if you didn't know how to navigate through the process, if you didn't know how to do applications, if you didn't know how to, you know, get the licensing, because that's the most important thing, and just the political game around it is important. That, you know, that folks need to understand is, I would say, the hardest part of the industry is getting around the politics. And then also, and then also funding. Funding is that's another issue, because you just can't go take out a loan because we're not federally legal. So no banks are going to give you a loan for a cannabis business.
There you go.
Well, not such as the plant anyway. So
does that, Bo, does that leave it open for, let's use the term, predatory investors?
Well, yeah, predatory investors come in with our social equity programs. We've seen a lot of that. We've seen just a lot of issues with investors taking advantage of our people of color that would qualify for social equity, just because, again, the requirements to be a social equity applicant is that you're low income, that you have a cannabis conviction, and that you come from an area that's been affected by the war on drugs, which is generally, you know, our communities. And so, and these folks generally, you know, have never owned a business. They're not very savvy at contracts. So therefore you get these very predatory contracts, these, you know, operating agreements, and just agreements between the investor and the applicant. So it's things like that that we have to really assist and support our folks in moving forward with. So, you know, and so it's been a very difficult learning situation, because we never expected all this to happen, as far as, folks being that greedy and that predatory.
Mm-hmm.
So, but now we know. So
come on.
So now we're, looking
even and what you're giving us now, the education that you're giving myself and the audience right now, you know what? I'm smiling because this is a positive opportunity that a lot of us are missing out on.
Oh yeah.
And the more I'm becoming educated on, even living here in California, a lot of us, I would say most of us who are not in the business side of it, the mover shaker side of it, we don't know all the details we should know, because is it as simple, Bo, as going to check what our actual state is saying about it? I mean, can we just go online, type in something and find out what is our state offering us? I mean, is it that simple to start there?
Well, yes. I mean, I would say that would be the beginning. Yes, that would be the start. But there's a lot more to it. But I would say definitely educate yourself, because there is information online. So you could go to, it's simple as just Googling like state requirements, around cannabis, or your state regulations, because every state has it. They call their departments very, they're very different. So like California is the Bureau of Cannabis Control. Okay, so you could just Google, cannabis laws and, regulations for California, and it would pull up. And then the different cities, because the different cities have different ordinances. So in California, which were very unique versus other cities, is California, our cities trump our state regulations. So whatever the city ordinances are, those would trump the state regulations. Now in other states, it's the state regulations that trump the city.
Gotcha. Now, you know what? Now, as far as coming into the indica, and I also know you're doing pilot programs, right? I mean, in different cities. You're not just in California. You're countrywide, right? Nationwide.
Yes, we're in Chicago.
What are you doing in other cities? Like, what are you implementing there?
Well, we generally are in cities that have a social equity program, or have a large population of Black and brown folks that need assistance with social equity. Because if there's like we're in Oklahoma, we're getting ready to open in Oklahoma in the next couple of months. But they don't really have a social equity program there. They have an equity program, but it's not what I consider a social equity program. Michigan's another state that they have a social equity plan, but it's not a very good one. It doesn't really give our people of color priority. So it gives them some discounts on fees. But again, if they aren't getting priority and they're not getting support, then what's the point?
There you go.
So these are things that we can look at as well. We don't want just these programs that are full of fluff. We want some real teeth to these actual social equity plans.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you this too, because I grew up PK, after my father's whole his involvement with civil rights, and then through the political realm. Growing up as PK, I did realize that there is, and historically, I'm going to speak specifically to the Black community right now. In the Black community, the churches have been paramount in the, I'm going to say the religious, political, social interpretation, advancement, struggle of our communities, okay? I know that there has got to be, or is it, I don't want to place it in you, because in my mind, I would suspect that there is a disconnect in our churches to educate our church members on,
for sure.
Because if we're looking at it, Bo, what I'm learning now is that if we're talking about financial, generational financial advancement for our community, specifically we mentioned Black and brown community, with that, it's, what are you running into, or has there been any attempted conversations with the church community, especially in the U.S.?
Absolutely. Yeah, there has been. I mean, especially locally here in LA, there's been a strong push for that. Actually, we are connected with several, like probably 25 different churches
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, but
all right.
again, pastors are very careful about
Yeah.
how they roll that out, and they have to be, because you're talking to a congregation that has been so used to, say no to drugs.
Yes.
So unless they're truly educated the right way, they're not just going to say, okay, great.
Gotcha.
Yeah, this is
Gotcha.
all good now. No,
Right.
it's going
Right.
to be a
Right.
process, but
It's,
the churches are a huge platform to
mhm.
educate folks.
Yeah.
And this was something me and Montel were talking about. I don't know if you saw the show that I did with
That's
Montel.
right. Montel Williams, much respect to you
Mm-hmm.
and Montel. That's right.
Right. So Montel and I were speaking about how we could educate the masses. And he said, 25 years ago, when he first started on a speaking circuit, how he was able to get like these messages across, not just about cannabis, but just
Oh,
whatever his issue was.
gotcha. Gotcha.
He said the pastors opened up their churches for him to come and speak. They gave
Okay.
him that platform, which was awesome. He said, but that is the most effective way to reach the masses,
Mm-hmm.
and I truly believe that, because I think the churches were definitely targeted with the
Mm-hmm.
stigma years ago. They were definitely targeted by the government and the different lobbyists that did not want cannabis to be legal.
Mm-hmm.
So once they got all the churches behind it, then they were all good to go.
Gotcha.
No,
Gotcha.
control. The
Come
churches
on now,
control the
I mean,
masses.
that's a reality, man, that,
Mhm.
and I know that's a whole other episode, but, that whole war on drugs and that 80s infiltration of drugs in the community and that
Right.
whole bigger picture. And something inside of me is saying, Vic, we need to do a whole show on that,
You know what?
but,
That would be a great show, and you should have your
you know,
father on there. You should have
yeah,
your father on
that's
that show,
right.
and you should have like several pastors, because and I would like to hear that. I would like to hear that debate
That's right.
of the pro and the anti-cannabis.
That's right.
Because I just think I would like, definitely, that would be awesome.
And you know what, Bo? When I travel globally through the music, I get into this conversation, and I'd love to hear your take on this. I don't care whether I'm in Europe, I've been in parts of Asia, that it seems to be globally outside of the United States. There's a more openness to an understanding and a respect for this movement, for this arena. And a lot of the questions that I'm getting is, why is it that, it's U.S. feels is so negative for cannabis use, or why is the U.S. so da 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 da? And I've been educated outside of the United States
Right.
by other non-Americans about what my own is
Right.
doing here and what we're not doing. Why is it globally more accepted than even at home?
Well, it was the United States that actually just put the stigma on cannabis in 1937. And that's when they signed the pact with all the different countries who said that they would not do any cannabis trade. So this was the problem. And so now, with cannabis becoming legal here, they're all like, well, what is the issue? First you blackball it, now you want to embrace
Now,
it. Because we are going to embrace it federally soon. They're just trying to position themselves. I think one of the bigger issues is really that cannabis is in competition with every major industry,
there you
from
go.
pharmaceutical to the lumber industry to the textile industry, the fuel industry. So you look at any major industry, and cannabis can actually be the solution to all those issues. Because do you understand, like, to even grow cotton, so when I was in North Carolina, I spoke at the Black Farmers Convention, right?
Okay.
The National Black Farmers Convention. And my thing,
Right.
I met some farmers that grow cotton in Durham. And I was like, are you guys crazy? I said, first of all, we associate cotton with slavery.
Right.
Okay, so as a black farmer, you should not be growing cotton.
Okay.
First of all. Secondly, the resources, it takes 10 times the amount of resources to grow cotton than it does hemp.
Look at that.
Yeah, and not only that, but okay, so you can grow a crop of hemp in like 3-4 months, okay, and it grows like a weed. So you don't need that much water, and not only that, but it doesn't deplete your soil like a lot of these crops do, like cotton.
Gotcha.
Cotton just takes all the minerals and everything out of the soil. And the same thing with look, our whole ecosystem is thrown off because why? We've cut down 3/4 of the Amazon forest. Do you know it takes what, 20 years to grow a tree when it takes 3 months to grow hemp. And you can produce paper, you can produce everything that the tree would produce. You can now produce the same thing without cutting down all these trees. So our resources globally would be saved if we would just be smart and grow hemp.
Gotcha. And I mean, and Bo, that's tremendous, because your education on the ancillary positiveness of this whole industry. We look at our inner cities, bringing it back home. A lot of our inner cities need financial help. We need rebuilding. We need a way of financial injection that in our own communities, that I believe that a lot of ways our government has dropped the ball on, of giving that money where it's needed, giving that money where we need to have it. So in my mind, and now the more that you're talking and educating here, we're missing out on ancillary financial or financial resources that we can use to improve our own inner cities. Am I wrong?
You're absolutely right. But let me go back to what you said. Do you think that they dropped the ball, or they purposely don't fund our community?
There you go.
I don't think they dropped the ball at all. I just think that they are purposely keeping that community reinvestment out of our communities.
I got you.
And see, and this is what we've done in California, is a lot of that tax dollar from the cannabis tax, right, has to go into community reinvestment.
Exactly.
So they're making sure that it goes into those cities, because again, we are going to miss out. Because you look at all this money that's been made in the last 4 or 5 years.
There you go.
Where's this money going?
That's right.
Where is it going? I don't see our cities having new parks and new schools, and even funding the improvement our schools, our streets, all that.
All that. And it's almost like you read my notes, sis, because that was my next point. You mentioned billions of dollars.
Right, billions. That
have been, as part of, and we're talking about, when we say billions of dollars, we're talking, on my behalf and those listening, legal billions of dollars.
Right.
Quote unquote.
Tax dollars.
Tax dollars.
Yes.
Okay. Who's getting that money?
Right. Exactly.
That's the question that you're bringing out, oh man, and once again, I have to say that I'm feeling a positiveness butterfly of this conversation, because this is called opportunity through education, as far as I'm looking at it.
It absolutely is.
You know what I mean? So what can we do, sis, other than just sitting down and saying, hey, y'all, go get educated on this industry, what's the campaign futuristically? And you, as a mover shaker of implementing this knowledge, what can we do socially, or what's the first step in that education?
Well, I think it's getting involved with, organizers and organizations that work towards social justice and social equity. Because again, social justice and social equity and cannabis go hand in hand. Because we cannot say that we want to be part of the industry and then still allow our folks to stay in prison. We can't make billions of dollars and have our people still in prison, or still even go to jail for prison. Go to jail for cannabis, because that's what's happening. If you look at Colorado, when Colorado went recreational legal, Black and brown, the arrest rates for Black and brown folks went up 20%.
Wait, do that again now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So when Colorado legalized recreationally, right, which means you would think the arrest rates would go down. Well, for Black and brown folks, it went up 20%. And we're now trying to get the data from California, and we want to find out, since we went recreational legal in the last couple of years, have arrest rates gone up for our Black and brown folks? Because now you have to understand, with the legalization of the recreational cannabis, now you have very defined black and white regulations. Well, we didn't have that under Prop 215, which was our medicinal legalization. So it was still in the gray area. So police didn't, and law enforcement didn't know if they could arrest you for smoking in the car or not. So they just would let it go. Well, now it's very defined. You cannot smoke in the car. You cannot smoke in the streets. You cannot smoke anywhere but your house.
Gotcha.
Okay. So it opens the door for Black and brown folks to be arrested just because, they're smoking in their car, or they're
I-
because people are not going to stop their habits. They've been smoking in their car, smoking on the street,
right.
smoking on, you know what I mean? That's just
Yeah,
what
yeah.
California people do.
Yeah, I got
But
you.
again, it opens up,
Mhm.
For law enforcement to just start arresting folks because they want to.
I mean, because you know what? I mean, with that in itself, we cannot back off, even in more of the education that I'm getting right now, and so many people who are watching. In my opinion, y'all, there's something going on. There's something bigger. You know, you dig, that's happening here, and I don't know what it is. I'm getting educated on so much right now, but that's why I'm glad I'm getting this education with my people watching too. You know, it's something else going on.
Well,
what's going
on? Vic, I think it's what's always been going on. They do not want Black folks to own anything in a major industry. We know this. Come on.
There you
go. I mean, let's keep it real.
Yeah.
You know, it goes back to they kept us out of the tech industry. They kept us out of the alcohol industry. Come on.
Yeah.
You think they want to let us in the cannabis industry, even though we paid the price and our folks paid the price by going to prison? We built this industry.
That's right. And still in prison.
Absolutely.
Or have died.
Exactly.
Have died. Black and browns have died.
Absolutely.
Certain things, you know?
Absolutely.
What's in place, sis, to help what's the campaign? What can society do, or what's in place to help these Black and brown brothers and sisters, even or anyone who's in right now that's being incarcerated for the cannabis illegality? We'll put it that way.
We have to fight to change laws. I mean, that's it. We have to fight to change laws because we got to get folks out of prison. I mean, this makes no sense that anybody's sitting in prison. I don't care if you're green, purple, white. It doesn't matter. Nobody should be in prison for cannabis at this point. You know, not when folks are just, you know, making billions of dollars. It's just ridiculous. I mean, let our people out. But anyway, so.
Oh, that's right. I have family members. I have friends in there right now.
Of course.
Okay,
and people are still going. People are still going to jail, which is crazy to me. Why are people even going to jail? But they are. So, but you know, what I say to people, and I don't know what state you're in, but depending on what state you're in, it's really about pushing for a social equity plan in your state, your cities, especially if there's a large population of Black and brown folks. You definitely need a social equity plan. If not, what's going to happen is there have been so many barriers in the last few years created for our Black and brown folks that have tried to get in the industry. Like, for instance, let's go to Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Pennsylvania, the monetary requirements were so high, there was no way that you'd be able to apply. You had to have a few million in the bank. Illinois was the same way. You had to have a few million in the bank to even apply. And then just the application process. You know, you have to do like a whole proposal, business plan, and plans within that business plan, like 800 pages, okay, just to apply. And most folks don't even understand how to put those together. So, and those applications literally cost about $200,000.
Come on now.
Then you got to pay the application fee that's non-refundable. The application fee is another $10,000 to $20,000 that's non-refundable if you don't win that license.
Okay.
Okay, so they put up all these financial barriers. Okay, and this is another reason that most Black and brown folks don't try to even apply, because they feel like we can't even qualify, we can't even compete. Okay, so what Pennsylvania is doing right now, and I don't know who's in Pennsylvania, but whoever is, Dalen Leach is a senator that has really been progressive, and he's been pushing a bill, which I think is SB 250. But what he's trying to do is take down all the financial barriers so that anybody can apply for cultivation, consumption lounge, delivery, retail for literally a few $100s.
Okay. Wow.
Because he wants to make it an open market, which makes sense.
Yes.
You know, because again, if you're putting up all these barriers, and this is where the social equity programs are supposed to be effective. You know, we haven't had a lot of success with our social equity plans because there's been a lot of, I don't know, just if I want to say corruption around it, but there's just been a lot of finagling around our ordinances and our regulations, which needs to be corrected. But they were intended to take down those barriers financially and give the support to our social equity applicants to move forward through the process.
Okay.
So again, that's what we're trying to go back to here, is we're trying to make sure that we keep the integrity of these social equity programs so Black and brown folks can actually get licensed.
I got you. Much respect, sis. Much respect. I mean, because, hey, when we throw numbers like billions of taxable dollars out here, that's what and it seems like even through this education you're giving right now, like so many times generationally in our nation, there's a difference between equity and equality.
You're absolutely right. A huge difference. And you know what? We just don't want equality, okay? We want equity and ownership.
Gotcha.
Period. We want equity and ownership. We want a piece of this. We don't want to just be the consumers, because that's what's happening right now. You're talking about, our people are huge consumers of cannabis. So why shouldn't we have ownership? Because we should be marketing to our own folks. So they should be buying Black and brown brands. That's what they should be buying. That's what they should be supporting.
Gotcha.
And until we get involved, until we create those,
come on now,
then we're not taking advantage of this market, because we should be circulating that Black dollar.
Gotcha.
But we can't circulate it if we don't have products to sell. So we have to get involved. And if people need assistance in developing brands or companies, reach out. I mean, this is what we do. We're here to support.
This is what we do, right on. And you are doing it. And that's what part of this is today. Well, all of it is today. It's an education. You dig? It's like, hey, wait a minute. There's something else going on here. It's not all over. There's something else first. But first, we've got to get educated on what it's all about.
That's
and we've got to get re-educated on what it's not all about.
Right.
You did, the
Absolutely.
whole stigma, the negativity of it, the campaign that started generations ago, especially in this country, and that has, like you said, put so many of our brothers, our sisters, our mothers, our fathers, our friends in prison.
Right.
Or have passed away, have been killed because of this misunderstanding.
Right.
Bo, you know what? I've got to, and you know what? There's a group of Americans. I'm going to preface it this way: multicultural, white, Black, Asian, Latino, multicultural age group in the United States called senior citizens that are heavily endorsing the positivity of cannabis.
Yes.
As equates to the chemical the traditional medicinal, which I don't know enough education to knock what's happening, but what I am saying is this: it's got to be something positive there that our senior citizens multiculturally are giving praise about.
Of course, absolutely. Because you know what, the thing about it is, they're at an age where they do have the ailments, they do have the aches and pains, they do have all that needs treatment.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the pharmaceuticals are killing them. The side effects are worse than the actual treatment. So, that's something we need to think about.
Yes.
And, with cannabis, you have no side effects, and it really works. What people don't understand is that we have an endocannabinoid system. So from the time that we're born, when we're being nursed, by our mothers, we're getting those cannabinoids. They're going in our body, and it's just like having something like hormones. As we age, they start to deplete. So our body is constantly craving those cannabinoids, because it's basically what is it? I'm brain dead. It helps our immune system. Okay. So these are the things that we need.
Right.
We need the cannabinoids in order to boost our immune system and have overall health. And that's what people don't realize. It's not about getting high. Whether or not you just take the component of the CBD and the other cannabinoids, THC is the part that gets you high. Right. So if that's what you are trying, the effect you're trying to get, great. But if you're just going after the medicinal benefits, you could just do all the CBDs, the CBNs, the CBGs. There's so many other cannabinoids that are healing to our body that we actually produce naturally. And again, as we age, we produce less of it. So all we're doing is just fueling our bodies with all the good, you know, cannabinoids that we need.
There you go.
And that's where people need to educate themselves. If they really educate themselves on what this plant does, it would be amazing, because people would now start being really healthy on an organic level.
That's right. I mean, bravo, because we can't forget about the, I believe it's called the terpenes in what's happening. We can't forget about the fats, the lipids. You know, there's so much more, like you just said, not all about the getting high effect when you, and that I believe is the generationally successful negative marketing.
Right.
The best way I can put it, over our generation that got to the souls and minds and was passed down, that it's not about all about the high effect. It's about medicinal.
Right. There's people do. I don't even know if people really even understand what the campaign was. Like you said, the negative campaign market. Well, in 1937, they again demonized the plant so that they could basically make black and brown folks look like they were just evil people on this cannabis. So basically they associated marijuana, that's where they got that marijuana name, to the Mexicans. Okay. And so basically they were saying that, oh, it makes Mexicans and black people rape women.
Gotcha.
So they put all this negative criminal behavior behind, you know, using cannabis, where it's like, where did that come from? There was no data on a bunch of rapes happening from black and brown folks. There just wasn't. It was, again, it was this campaign that was made up in order to demonize this plant and demonize black and brown folks using this plant. Because again, before that, it was considered a cure-all that was in every pharmacy. Okay, so again, it was to the government's benefit.
Wow.
You know, so again, it was never about, oh, there's no medicinal value. They didn't say that. It just was the behavior it said it caused, which was a total lie. There was nothing to solidify that, you know, that type of accusations on black and brown folks.
There you go.
It didn't make them crazy and have them rape women. It was just stupid.
I remember back in the, thank you so much for that insight and that education, because you know, I'm flashing back to the old, I think it was the 30s or 40s. There was something called Reefer Madness or a movie.
That was exactly it.
That was it, you know. So and it just it's lasted, you know.
Propaganda. It's propaganda.
Propaganda.
But you know, but so interesting. So why is it now that you have all these major politicians that are now sitting on the boards of the biggest cannabis companies?
Now
these were all politicians like John Boehner and Roger Stone that were all part of the war on drugs, but now they're supporting it. How is that happening?
That's right. That's right. Well, I think it may have something to do with that $1 billion quote that we just mentioned.
That's exactly it.
Know?
Okay. Exactly. Okay. With that being said, we need to wake up, people. We need to wake up, because if we're going to be left behind because of our ignorance and our fear of what that whole propaganda was, then that's on us. You know, just like we missed out on the tech industry, we're going to be left behind on this too. And then what? And then, you know what? We're going to have our communities that are there that have no funding for schools and for parks and just to upgrade our communities, period. We're going to keep having the gentrification happening, because that's what's happening here in LA.
There you go.
I don't know too many true black communities anymore. There's only one or two, like maybe Leimert Park is one. But it's like, other than that, you see Inglewood's gentrified. So it's like, and that's because they're not putting any money in.
Gotcha.
But you know what? As soon as the white folks move in, they're going to put a bunch of money in those cities.
We're going to see start seeing some new stuff.
Right.
You know,
right. So I see cannabis as a way to save our communities, because we can start putting money into our communities. If we have operators, cannabis operators, true black and brown folks that are operators and owners, then we can start reinvesting in our communities.
There you go. And that's the business sense of it. We have incredible business minds, legal business minds in our community, black and brown, who are ready, willing, and able to
Yeah.
put back in the community, like you're just saying. Like somebody on the list just now said, if they could find out oranges cured cancer, oranges would be in a whole nother thing. Right. So it's all of it, it depends, not isolating the product. It just depends on what it is that has been fed to us. You know what, Bo? We got to do a part 2. I would love, it would be an honor to continue in your time, because I know you are super busy even through this, but through your pilot programs, and I believe, before I get out of here, one of your organizations offers a free educational or a free, what is that non-gratis offer that you're using?
Okay, so Indica, so just so you know, so Indica is the first cannabis organization to be funded by the governor's office to work with communities that have been affected by the war on drugs. And then we're also contractors with the city of Los Angeles to provide cannabis education, business education, vocational training, job placement, internships, mentorships, because again, a lot of people that don't come from the cannabis industry, they wouldn't know how to cultivate, or they wouldn't know how to run a retail shop. Well, we provide all that training for them. And so we assist them in technical assistance for getting licensing, all that. So again, we're moving on to Chicago, Detroit, and then eventually Atlanta too.
Go ahead. And this, now please give us, once again, this is for my people, the name of it and how we can contact you.
Okay, so it's Indica, which is N-D-I-C-A. There's no I, because a lot of people want to spell it like the plant with an I. No, it's just N-D-I-C-A, which is the National Diversity and Inclusion Cannabis Alliance. And my website is thendica.org. So it's theindica.org. And they can go on, register, and and whatever they're interested in, whether it be workforce development, because like some people don't want to be owners, and I get that, but at least be on like a C-level, employment situation. You can be an executive in a company. I mean, all these cannabis companies, they're growing by leaps and bounds right now, and it's a great opportunity for folks to transition. So whatever they may, want education on, they can just reach out to us, and then we can assist.
Hey, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here. You heard it. And I know that in your own, my mind is just going in so many positive ways right now. And thank you, Bo, because and I hope it's done, and I know it's done for so many listening. It's put those positivity connectors in my mind and my thinking. It's also redefined a lot of direction of what this whole industry about, the positiveness of this industry, and how it's so important, y'all, that we re-educate ourselves over the holistic approach to the cannabis industry. And I'm going to just talk, here we are. It's not all about the high of it. It's not all about the terms and the usage and the things that we've grown up with. You dig? It's about the holistic health positivity of this plant that we mentioned before, outside of the high. It's helping so many of our senior citizens. It's doing so much more in a lot of ways that even more of the traditional medical approach has been to. And I'm catering to the senior citizen community because I know personally many senior citizens, without putting them out there, that until they're ready to understand it. But I know that they are being helped, and it's not about the high. So I had to take a break and rap to my positivity posse out of here. You'll see the smile because I'm here. Bo Money brought the education today. She brought the approach of positive truth today, and it ignited in me and reignited in me. And I know from what I'm seeing here in the lineup, it's igniting a whole lot of you all as well. Thank you, Bo.
Absolutely. And I want to say one more thing, is that folks should look at Montel Williams. He's had MS for almost 20 years now. And the reason Montel is still alive and functioning, because I mean, someone that has 20 years of MS generally is in a wheelchair and can't even raise their head. Montel does more in a day than most people do in a month. He speaks all around the world advocating for cannabis. He speaks all around the world about social equity and social justice. And it's just very near and dear to his heart because it saved his life. Plus, you know, he has a brand called Untitled Labs. So he as well is benefiting and creating this whole generational wealth platform for his family.
Fantastic.
You know, while he's helping people stay alive.
Yes.
You know, so so that's something that people should look into, is look at the success stories of people that have been cured, and, you know, and these little children that are taking CBD for epilepsy. So, you know, all those things are important. Because one of the biggest questions I always get asked is, how do I get in? You know, if I want to do this, how do I get in? You know what I mean? So that's the biggest question. And that's where I was too 5 years ago. It's like, where do I start? You know, so that's what I'm saying. Reach out and don't be afraid to get involved. That's my biggest thing. Don't be afraid, because people are so afraid to just tap into the unknown, which I understand. But, you know, there is support out there. And now there are some Black and brown folks that are doing really well in the industry.
Right on. Right on. Hey, you know what? I'm so glad you brought up Brother Montel, because I just personally want to give him his additional much respect. Not only just in what he's doing right now with his incredible involvement with the cannabis industry, but what he's already done career-wise, spoken-wise, his involvement with the social development. A lot of people don't know this brother's been out here as boots on the ground for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and we know him and learn to love and respect from his talk show, of course, but it's so much more to Brother Montel Williams, and this is evident what Sister Bo is giving right now. Some people call you all the dynamic duo, others call you all, you know, but I understand and I respect. And Brother Montel, thank you for what you're doing as well. Could you give us his product and his you know, his contact as well?
Absolutely. So his product is called Lenitive Labs. It's spelled Lenitiv. So it's Lenitive Labs. And he also has a new podcast, and it's called Let's Be Blunt with Montel. So everybody should check that out.
Let's Be Blunt.
Great education. Actually, that's really a good education piece for folks, because he has like some of the top cannabis folks on there, from the doctors to the attorneys to the activists, everything you want to know. So that's great. Yeah, that would be a great tip for most folks that are new to the industry and that just want to keep updated on what's going on.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you, sister. I love you. The family sends their love, and you know we support in whatever it is that you're bringing to society, bringing to the human race. I'm going to put it that way, because it's bigger. It's bigger than what we all as a society have been conditioned to see. And having you as one of the forerunners, and you mentioned Brother Montel, much respect to what you all are doing. Thank you for coming today to educate me and educate all of the ones who are listening right now. And specifically Positivity Posse, you know, when you watch our Saturday and Sunday show, you never know what you're going to get. And that's the beauty of it. But one thing that you're always going to get Saturday and Sunday on the Victor Brooks Show Quarantine Series Facebook Live is you're going to walk away with a sense of some kind of positivity that's giving it to you right there. Now, whether you take it or not, I can't help you with that. But we're here to give it to you. And we're here to, just like I always like to say, take a bath in this positivity. Take a shower in this positivity. And you know how when you get out the shower, you got the water on your fingertips? Flick it off on somebody else. Get that positivity on them too. Because that's what it's all about, y'all. You know, we give phrases like we're all in this together. We give phrases like we all gonna be okay. But that's what it's all about. We have to give what we have, our sense of positivity and connection to this life that we're living. And we got to spread it to somebody else, like the knowledge that Sister Bo spread to us today. You dig? That's what it's about. And like somebody just said, 100% truth on the line. Thank you. I love you. I love you. And once again, happy Mother's Day to you all. And don't forget to follow us, our YouTube channel, the Victor Brooks Show YouTube channel. You know, we've just been doing this for 2 months. I'm trying to get my numbers up too, you know, to try to spread this positivity to everybody else. Come on over to the YouTube channel, the Victor Brooks Show. Also, we want to follow us on Facebook like you're doing right now. Victor Brooks Show Facebook page. Also on Instagram, at the Victor Brooks Show. Twitter, that I just learned, I'm keeping it real at the Victor Brooks. So come on, we're just trying to do what we can do to always be there for you. Love you, Bo. Much respect. Thank you all for being here, and come back every weekend to get some of this positivity on you. I love you. Have a good one.